Okay, so if you have ever asked yourself which foundation is the best for me, definitely this is the video for you. Today we're going to be talking about the different kinds of foundations, the formulations, and what you need according to your specific skin type. So let's get started. So the first thing that you need to know is that there are different skin types. The first skin type is normal skin. Mine is normal, which means I don't get a lot of breakouts. I have an equal balance of the oils. I don't have too much oil or any dry patches. So that's the first category, normal skin. Normal skin usually has a bit more flexibility when it comes to the kind of foundation that you're going to use. So on usually hot days or days when I know I'm going to be wearing my makeup for extended periods of time, I do like going in with matte formulation foundations just because they have a longer wear or a better wear as opposed to the dewy types. And then on the days when I just want that glow, especially on cold days, I usually tend to go now for the dewy. And then now the second skin type is oily skin. So oily skin is essentially the skin type that produces a lot of oils, and especially in the T-zone area, but that isn't limited to that. You can have maybe oily area patches over here, it just depends. But a lot of people, especially who have oily skin, either have oily skin everywhere or specifically this part. And then obviously for that you want to combat it with a matte formulation. Whenever you're looking at products to use, always ask yourself, what is the problem that I'm trying to combat? So for example, if you're looking at oily skin, then the problem that you're trying to combat is oil control. So you want to go for a matte formulation of either your foundation or your base products. If you have dry skin, on the other hand, you want hydration. So essentially you're going to lean more towards hydrating products as opposed to matte products. Whenever you go to buy makeup products, and this is something that I've often seen with so many people, is you'll see, for example, that this product is really being hyped up, and you're just like, you know what, I have to go and buy it, but is it for your specific skin type? That's the number one thing that you have to ask yourself. And especially for me when I was starting out, because there were so many reviews, there were so many product recommendations, I would often end up buying so many products that I didn't need, and I would just have them in my kit. So always make sure you know what question you're answering or what problem that you want to address before going in to buy a product. So that's oily skin. And then now we go to dry skin. As I've mentioned, skin that essentially dries up and has very dry patches. So an easy way to know if you have dry skin is immediately after the shower. If you don't apply anything for a few minutes, you'll usually feel that your skin is very tight and uncomfortable and almost like it's being pulled. That's dry skin. So obviously with that you want to go for a more hydrating formulation of foundation as opposed to a matte. You also have combination skin, which as the name suggests is a combination of two or more skin types. So that means maybe here you're normal and here you're oily, or here you're dry and here you're maybe sensitive, just two or more. So either you can be oily and dry and you have, you know, patches of oiliness, or normal and sensitive. As long as it's more than one specific skin type, you have combination skin. So for that, usually you have also a bit of flexibility when it comes to it, but I usually recommend going for more long wearing foundations as opposed to foundations that tend to move. The last skin type is actually sensitive skin, which basically means skin that is really sensitive. I know I'm using the exact same word to describe it, but it's basically that, like skin that is, you know, usually sometimes inflamed, sometimes red, feels really sensitive to the touch at times, and that could either be because of a breakout, or you just normally have sensitive skin when you are reacting to products or when you're trying out products. So those are the 5 main types of skin types. So we have normal, you have oily, you have dry, you have combination skin, and you have sensitive skin. That's the number one thing that I want you to ask yourself. So what is my skin type? The number 2 is, what is your undertone? So for undertones, I'm going to give you a general overview. So you have warm undertone, which basically is the golden yellowish undertones, and then you have cooler undertones, which are basically like the peachy and cool toned colors. The bluish, and especially if you look at your veins, you have, you know, the blues in terms of the vein, I wouldn't say veinage. And then you have the neutral, which is basically just not really warm, not really cool, it's just in the middle. That's the second thing. So number 1, what is your skin type? Number 2, what is your undertone? And then number 3, when it comes to what kind of foundation you need, is the coverage. So are you a babe who has, you know, a bit of hyperpigmentation, a bit of acne, a bit of scarring that you need to cover up? Then that would determine if you want to go for a full coverage, meaning it covers everything, all the spots. It makes sure that it is really covered. And then you have medium, which is sort of, it covers some it doesn't. And then you also have a very light formulation of foundation. So you have light, you have medium or buildable, and then you have the full coverage. So for light coverage is usually very sheer and very natural looking. So a lot of people who tend to go for that are people who don't have a lot of things to cover up or to hide, and they just want that light formulation because their skin is clear. And then you have the medium or the buildable coverage foundations, which basically means you have a few things here or there to correct, but you can be able to apply an extra layer of foundation, of the same foundation, to be able to sort of hide any of the problematic areas. And then now you go to the full coverage foundation, which basically gives you a flawless, I woke up this flawless kind of beat. So that's number 3, the coverage of your foundation. Next thing you want to look at is the finish. When you apply your foundation, does it dry down completely and gives you a sort of like a very dry and matte, powdery looking finish, which is like the matte? I do have foundations which both of them are matte. If I can compare 2 by 2, you'd find that one is matte but dries to an overly matte finish, and it doesn't really look natural. And naturally our skin is not matte, so even when you're going for foundations, I usually tend to go for, even if I'm going for a matte foundation, something that has a finish that still looks skin-like and natural, as opposed to like the very matte and powdery ones. But if you do have a foundation like that, you can always reduce that sort of finish and effect by using a hydrating setting mist or a finishing setting mist to just be able to bring back the hydration to your skin. And another kind of finish is the dewy finish, which you would usually hear especially with setting sprays or primers or even foundations, which basically means they give you that natural glowy look and you sort of look like you're glowing from the inside. That's a glowy or a dewy finish. So that I would recommend it especially for people who naturally have dry skin or combination normal to dry skin. That usually looks really natural. Or if you have normal skin and you just want to look glowy and beautiful and just radiant, that is the finish that I would recommend. And then you also have satin finishes, silky finishes, which are sort of almost close to each other, but that is also another thing that you need to look at, the finish. Like when your foundation settles, how does it look like? The last thing when it comes to choosing your foundations, what is the formulation? Usually for me, there's 2 main categories that I look at in terms of formulation. So you have water-based products and then you have silica-based products. Water-based products are basically, as the name suggests, the main ingredient is water. For example, this is the Flory Roberts oil blotting primer, and then one of the main ingredients, if you look at the ingredients list, one of the main ones, the first ones, is water or aqua. That usually tells you that it is a water-based anything, whether it's a primer or a foundation, whatever it is. And then now you have silica-based product, which basically means that the texture is silicone and rubbery. And if you look at one of the main ingredients on that particular product, you'll find it's either silica or silica methyl something, just something to do with latex or rubber or silica. Personally, I do prefer water-based products because I feel like they sit really nicely on the skin and it does end up giving you a very natural finish as opposed to the silica products. But then again, it's all about blending. If you are able to know how to blend and how to be able to layer different products together, even with you using silicone-based products, it will still turn out really nice. The only disadvantage that I don't like about silica-based products is because of that natural latexy rubbery feel. When you apply it on the skin, naturally it sort of enters the pores and covers it. So I always tell my clients, if you do choose to go for silica based products, make sure when you're doing your skincare routine, when you're removing your makeup, make sure you really remove all of it, because a lot of it tends to clog your pores if you don't remove it properly and then cause breakouts. So that's the only difference. But the really beautiful thing about silica based products is, as I said, they can get into the pores because of that texture that they have and really give you that really smooth and even effect, and especially if you are somebody who has big pores. Those are the 5 main things that I look at when it comes to choosing my foundation. So what is your skin type? Are you oily? Are you normal? Are you combination, etc.? What is your undertone? Are you warm? Are you cool? Are you neutral? What is the finish that you're trying to look for? Are you looking for a silky, satin, a matte, dewy kind of finish? What is the formulation that you are looking for? Are you looking for a water-based formulation or a silica-based formulation? And then lastly is the coverage. Are you looking for something with light coverage, with medium buildable coverage, or something with full coverage? Okay, now that is out of the way, now let's go into the specifics of the actual foundations and even examples of what you can use depending on your specific skin type. So let me show you guys a few of my favorites. The first one is for oily skin, and this one is a matte formulation. This one is the Nedge World Foundation. I don't know if you can see NEG, and I really love, like, this is my current favorite and I use it for almost all combination to oily skin or just oily skin or even normal skin. When I want to wear it for like extended periods of time, it does have a very natural looking finish. Let me show you guys. And it's very lightweight. Please excuse the children in the background. It's very lightweight, and I think it is water-based as well. And it has medium coverage, so it does look skin-like, but the coverage is something that you can be able to build up if you want more coverage. And then another thing that I really like about it, and it's one of the things that sort of sold me on it, is the skin-like finish. Whenever I apply it, you wouldn't tell that I have makeup on, and that's something that is really important, unless like you want to look like you're wearing, like, you know, a ton of makeup. I love the finish of it. It's matte, but it's a comfortable kind of matte, and it dries down really comfortable and skin-like. So if you have oily skin but you're looking for a medium coverage foundation, I highly recommend the Nedge World Cosmetics foundation. Another great one, which is also drugstore, is this one. I'm almost out, as you can see. This one is the LA Girl Pro Matte. But now the difference between this one and this one is I've noticed this one dries down like extremely. Like this, I would recommend it if you have extremely oily skin. But it is a nice long wear foundation, and also blends really well. It is a full coverage foundation, so it tends to really hide almost everything. What I just don't like about it is how it dries down really quickly, and sometimes can be a bit hard to blend. But for drugstore, and if you want to start up on, you know, building your kit as a makeup artist, I recommend this. It is also a good price point. Then now let's go to my foundations, which I recommend for, you know, dewy oily skin, and I have been loving lately is this one. It's the Nuban Beauty In My Skin foundation. I really love the formulation of this. It is a very lightweight formulation, and also has medium and buildable coverage. But now the difference between this and this one gives me a more dewy finish as opposed to this, which gives me a matte finish. Okay, so this one essentially I look like glowy, dewy, radiant, and I would recommend it for somebody who has dry skin. It is a Nigerian brand, so sometimes I have to ship it out, but I did find a supplier, Shop with Talia, who stocks it as well, so I'm excited about that. Another thing, I'm just raving about this foundation. Another thing I really love is a bottle, because it comes in a plastic bottle, so it doesn't break. The only disadvantage is sometimes in hot days, making sure not to expose it to the sun, obviously, because, you know, plastic and the sun. But it's really beautiful. And then the way it says In My Skin foundation, it looks in my skin, like it looks very skin-like and very beautiful. Has a dewy finish, buildable coverage as well, and dries down really comfortable. So that's the formulation of that. I would recommend that for you if you have dry skin or you just want a dewy finish. Another one of my favorites, although I haven't reached out for this in a minute, this is the Divas Cosmetics Flawless Fix foundation. It is a long wear foundation as well. It lasts really long, and I also love how dewy and glowy it looks, especially when I put it on those like really cold days. The coverage is also full. It has also SPF of 15, waterproof, transfer resistant, lightweight, and oil free. So this is a really also good brand to start up with if you're building your kit. Divas Cosmetics. LA Girl Pro Coverage HD Long Wear Illuminating Foundation. This one also gives you more of a dewy look, but not as dewy as Divas and Nuban. Like these two, they just give you, like, you just look like you're glowing. Yeah, like you have glitter on the inside of your veins. I love it so much. So this is also a really good one. Actually, if you're tight on a budget, I do recommend you guys stocking up on these ones, either the LA Girl, the one in a thicker bottle, to cater to your, you know, dewy or hydrating, radiant, loving clients, and then the LA Girl Pro Matte to cover or cater for your oily skin clients. So that's sort of the difference between different finishes and different foundations according to your skin type. And then you have something like this one. This one is the Revlon Color Stay combination to oily. So this one covers combination skin. So we talked about matte, we talked about dewy. Let's talk about combination. And as I said, combination can be combination oily, can be combination dry, you know, it depends on the specific combination. It varies from person to person. So this one is really, really good for oily skin. What I don't like about it is the formulation is a bit watery. I do love to use this for my, you know, Caucasian clients, and it is usually a good base when I want to sort of lighten the foundation that I have if it's too dark. This is the formulation, but you can see it's so watery. So also that speaks about the coverage, because the coverage is it's all right, but it's buildable, but it's okay. It's not that, you know, full coverage. I would sort of say it's like medium buildable coverage, but then even sometimes when I try to build it up, it's not so much. So I would say it's probably a light coverage foundation, but it's also nice for combination skin. And then another good one is the L'Oreal Paris Perfect Match. This one I've not used it so much, also because of how sort of runny it is. I'm not a big fan of runny foundations because I always tend to need more of it, and especially if you have areas that I want to cover. But it's also a good foundation, especially for combination skin, that I would recommend. So another good option for combination oily skin is this Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless. Guys, I absolutely love this, and I don't know why they discontinued it because it's such a beautiful formulation. Nowadays I realize they do have the Super Stay option or the Fit Me, but in a plastic tube. I do have it, but I don't tend to reach out for it, again because it has a very, very watery and liquidy formulation, which I don't like. But if you're able to get this matte and poreless for combination to oily skin or just normal oily skin, it is really, really, really good and dries down. I would compare the formulation or the drying down or the finish of this to this. Like, they look really, really skin like, and they're really, really nice also to this, but for a dewy option. So if you're able to get the matte and poreless Maybelline but in the glass bottle, you will absolutely love it. So yeah, that is a brief overview when it comes to foundation and the kind of foundations that you're supposed to use and go for and reach for. So the next time you're going to look for a foundation, don't just only look at, is it matte or is it dewy? There's so many things. Is it water based? Is it silicone based? Does it have an undertone that matches mine? Is it a warm undertone? Is it a cool undertone? What is the finish? Does it look skin like, or does it look like I'm applying like 50 tons of makeup? There are so many aspects when it comes to foundation. Another tip I would give you guys when you are looking to buy a foundation is, after you've tested it out in the store, make sure, and you always hear this, make sure you don't buy it immediately. Go to the natural light and see how it sort of sits and feels on your skin, and also how it looks, because oftentimes the artificial lights will, you know, it will look like a perfect match, but then when you go outside it sort of looks, you know, some type of way. So always take some time, go out to the natural light, see how it looks against your skin before you buy it. Another thing that you really, really, really need to look at, and especially I noticed it with my Fenty Beauty foundation. I don't have it near me. Foundation, I would sort of compare it to the LA Girl Pro Matte in terms of the finish. It dries down really, really quickly, so you have to work fast, or just make sure that you've prepped your skin properly so that it's not extremely matte. I noticed with that one also it oxidizes, meaning when it reacts, when you apply it on your skin and then it gets into contact with air, it does tend to change color. So also look out for that. I personally tend to go for foundations which will look the same way the whole day. I don't like oxidizing options because you might apply it on a client or on yourself and then it's a perfect match, you guys, the perfect match, and then you go out and after a few hours it's turned orange or it's turned red and it just looks, you know, a bit weird compared to your body. So also look out for that when it comes to choosing your foundations. So let me go ahead, do my look. I don't know if I should go for like a glowy option or a matte option, because both of them usually look nice. I think I'll do the Nuban Beauty because I really currently loving this one, and then I come back and show you guys how it looks like with everything. Also a little tip, how you prep your foundation, how you prep for your foundation will really actually determine how it looks. So for example, this is a dewy foundation, yes, but if I do or prep extremely matte products, that's, you know, my primer or my sweat block, or, you know, using a mattifying setting spray before using my foundation, it sometimes does tend to affect how it will show up. So usually I would say, if you're going for like a dewy look, then try and layer, you know, the dewy products. If you're going for a matte look, try and layer the matte products. But especially if you're going for matte looks, try and go for skin like looking matte finishes as opposed to like this extremely dry and powdery looking finishes. I hope that makes sense. Let me go and come back and show you guys how everything looks like after I've finished my full face.